Hi everyone, welcome to the second of our editing series of webinars. My name's Trevor and I work on the content team here at Smartbox. I'll be standing in for Kerry today, although Kerry is online with her assistant Caleb, and they are ready to answer your questions as we go through, so do feel free to ask questions in the chat window. Over the next half hour or so, we're going to build on the skills we learned in session one, and we're going to begin to add some more functions to the grid that we created in part one by including some navigation and action cells and also an additional grid. So as we did yesterday, we're going to be looking at our editing skills in the Grid 3 for Windows. So Grid's a complete communication solution, and it comes with a range of symbol and text-based vocabularies, as well as grid sets for independence and accessible apps and so on. And I just want to remind you that all the things that we learn during this webinar can be used in any of our grid sets. So any grid set can be edited. Whether it came with Grid 3, whether you downloaded it from Online Grids, you can go into edit mode and make changes to it in exactly the same way as we're going to do this afternoon. So the sessions in this series are aimed at a beginner level, so we're not assuming any prior knowledge. For this particular session, the only prior knowledge I'm assuming is that you've done part one of this series. So that if you didn't catch part one, don't worry, I'm sure you'll kind of soon catch up, and it will also be available online to view, so you can go back and see that as well. Okay, so we're going to go into Grid 3 now, and we're going to open up first of all the grid set that we started to create in part one. So here we are in Grid Explorer, and if you remember, this is where we launch our grid sets from, and we created this grid set called Drinks. And this is as far as we'd got. So we got some pronouns and some verbs, some describing words, and some context words as well. But this grid set isn't really quite finished yet. It really needs some function cells to give it all the functionality it needs to be usable. So that's what we're going to go on to do first of all. And the first thing we'll need to do is go into edit mode, and we can do that by clicking on the menu bar and go into edit grid, or you can press F11 on your keyboard. So now that we're in edit mode, the first thing that I want to do is to add a cell called a speak cell, and that will just read out whatever text is in the chat writing area here. So the first thing I need to do is select the cell that I want to work on, and then go to create cell. And you can see under the favourites, speak is right there next to the write command that we were using yesterday. So I just need to select that and click OK. And we now have a speak cell. So as well as being able to speak, it would also be good if you made a mistake to be able to delete the thing that you'd wrongly selected. And you may also, after you've spoken a sentence, you might want to clear that chat writing area in order to start a new sentence. So let's add some cells which are going to help with those things. So first of all, let's add a cell for delete word. So this would help if you just made an incorrect selection. So again, I'll select the cell that I want to work with, create cell. And again, this particular function is under the favourites on the top row, so we don't have to go searching for it. It's right there, delete word, and OK. You can see that these cells are looking different to the ones we created yesterday. That's because Grid has some built-in styles for different types of cells. So this is using the chat and writing style. Okay, we're going to edit that style in a moment. But first of all, we need to put in our clear cell. So select the cell again, create cell. And this time, the cell we're looking for doesn't appear on the favourites, and we can't see it anywhere on this screen. So there are two ways we can get to the command that we want. The first one would be to browse commands by category. So this particular one would be under the chat and writing category. So I could select that and then next, and I could find the command that I want that way. Or the other option is to use the search function. So let's do that in this case. So we're looking for clear. So all I need to do is type the first few letters, and the one that I'm looking for is the chat and writing command, clear here. So I'll just select that and select OK. Okay, so now I've got these three action cells. Let's just test them out. So in order to do that, I have to come out of edit mode. So I click on finish editing. F11 also does the same job. And just confirm that I want to save my changes. Okay, so let's create a sentence.
I want hot chocolate.
No, actually I don't want hot chocolate. So I can use delete word, change my mind.
Black coffee, extra strong.
Okay, that's better. And then if I want it to speak the whole sentence,
I want black coffee, extra strong.
the speak cell will do that, and you'll see that the text was highlighted as it was speaking as well. And once I'm done with that sentence, I can press clear and I'm ready to start on the next one. Okay. So I said that we were using a different style for these cells, and I want to edit that style slightly. So in order to do that, it's menu again and edit grid. And these cells are all together, so I may as well just select them all at once. It's just a click and drag. So just when you're doing the click and drag, just make sure you start outside of the first cell you want to highlight, just like that, and then just drag across the ones that you want. And then I need to select the Style tab at the top. So we're using the chat and writing style here for all three of these cells. And what I want to do is get rid of the border that's present currently. So I select border, and then I could choose any colour here, but I'm going to choose none. So there's no border on those cells. And then I'm also going to click on update style, because that means if I add any more cells that use the chat and writing style, they're also going to be the same in that they won't have a border either. So that is our action cells created. So the next thing I want to do is add some more vocabulary to this grid set. So we've got plenty of choices to talk about hot drinks. But if I want to ask for a cold drink, currently I can't do that. And I don't really want to add more rows and columns to this grid in order to add more vocabulary, because it would make the cells a lot smaller and could then be difficult to access. So what I really need to do is to jump to a separate grid that talks about cold drinks. So that's our next task, is to first of all create a cell which will make that jump when it's selected, and then we need to create the new grid that's going to have the space for the cold drinks on it. So first of all, I select the cell where I want this to happen, and with that cell highlighted, again I select create cell. And on the favourites here, the blue cell is a jump to command, and that's the one that I need. So I'm going to select that and click next. And now Grid is asking me, where do I want to jump to? Now at the moment, the choice is pretty limited because I've only got one grid so far, and that's our hot drinks grid. It's titled starts because it is the only grid in the grid set at the moment. So I could choose new grid at this point, and I could go through all the steps we went through in part one and create a cold drinks grid that does all that functionality. However, it would be quicker to create a copy of our hot drinks grid because it's going to be very similar. So if I select the grid that we've already created, and then I'm going to choose copy grid. And I now need to give my new grid a name. So let's call it cold drinks. And click OK. And you can see that my jump cell has been created, and it's used a different style. It's used the style, it's a pre-made style that comes within the software called jumps. So remember, you can create your own styles, we did that yesterday, but certain types of cells will use a predefined style. You can change that to another style if you want, or you can edit this predefined style. And I'm just going to make a small edit. I'm just going to remove the border so that it matches the action cells. So I've selected border and none. And again, I'll just update the style so that other jump cells are going to look the same. And the other thing here is that you'll notice that we haven't got a symbol on this cell at this moment in time. And we can't see the symbol choices at the moment on this ribbon bar, and that's because we're on the Style tab. So in order to see the symbols, I need to click the Home tab. And I'm going to use this arrow to represent a jump to another page. If you remember, you can choose all sorts of other symbols by selecting Find Picture. But in this case, the one that's been suggested is fine. Okay. So if I wasn't in edit mode, clicking on this cell would it automatically jump me to the cold drinks page. But when I'm in edit mode, that doesn't happen. It just selects the cell just to say this is the cell that I'm interested in editing right now. So if you want to actually follow the jump, if you look on the left hand side under commands, it's listed as jump to, and it's telling us it's a jump to the cold drinks grid. And we've got two options here. One is to browse, and that would be if we wanted to change the place that this grid is going to jump to. there's only 2 grids here, but if we had a lot of grids, we could simply select a different one. Okay, and we got to that by clicking on Browse. But what I want to do now is jump to my cold drinks page, because that's the page that I want to do some work on. So in that case, I have to click Follow Jump. And here we are. So this grid at the moment is still a copy of the hot drinks grid. It looks almost exactly the same, except that jump cell isn't there. And the other way, if you've got a few grids that are kind of similar looking and you're not sure which one you're on, if you look at the top of the screen, you get the title of the current grid up there. So we are actually on the cold drinks page, which is great. So most of what we created on this grid is absolutely fine, the pronouns and the verbs and the describing words and all that. What I need to do is to edit these context words, the actual vocabulary, and change them for cold drinks. So if I select hot chocolate, this is a right cell, and the text is right here. I'm just going to highlight that, and I'm going to change it to water, and choose a water symbol from the ribbon bar at the top. And then we're going to do the same with Coke. And choose a symbol. Lemonade. Milkshake. And instead of loose tea, we can have iced tea. Smoothie. Okay. And on this final cell here, we're going to change this to apple juice. But if you remember from part 1, on this particular cell, the label and the text are different. And that's because we had black coffee extra strong, which was a bit long to have as the cell label. So what we need to do is remember that here, and so we'll select the text, do exactly the same thing, type apple juice, and just going to search for a symbol for that. Okay. And I'm just going to flick this switch here, same as cell label, to on. Okay. I actually did that in slightly the wrong order. It's because I've mistyped it. My apologies. Just shows you that it is a live webinar, doesn't it? There we go. So that's why the symbol wasn't appearing, because I've mistyped it. So we've got the cell label and the text matching again on that cell. Okay. So what is missing from this grid at the moment is any way of getting back to our hot drinks grid, or our home grid in this case. So in the same location where we had the jump cell to get here, I'm going to add a jump back cell now. So again, it's create cell. And this time I'm going to go into the jumps category. And I'm going to choose jump back. There you go. And it's using the jump style, which if you remember we edited and removed the border, and that's come up looking just the same. And the other thing, we do have one spare cell here. I'm going to make this a jump home cell. So in our grid set at the moment, we do only have 2 grids, but if you imagine that we were adding drinks pages to a whole grid set that might have dozens of grids, then you would want a way to jump quickly to the home grid. So if I do create cell, because the last thing we did was a jump back command, we're still in the jumps category here because Grid has remembered where we were previously. And so we can go straight to add in a jump home. And that has been added like so. So if I now come out of edit mode, finish editing, save changes. So we're on our cold drinks page.
Want apple juice.
Okay, and I'm going to clear that, and then I could jump back, and that will take me back to the home grid, which is our drinks grid, and we can select a different drink.
Espresso.
Okay, so that brings us to the end of the tasks for this this session of the webinar series. So to recap, what we've done in this session is we've looked at adding action cells like speak, delete word, and clear. We added in a jump cell, and when we did that, we learned how to copy an existing grid so that we could jump to it, and then we made changes to that copied grid. And we also have added a jump back cell and a home cell. So hopefully over these first 2 sessions, you're now familiar with the basics of creating a grid and adding vocabulary to it and adapting the appearance and creating extra grids and jumps between them. And what we'd recommend you do after this session is maybe take the time to explore some of the other commands that you can add to cells. We've only explored really only 1 or 2 so far. So that would be a good sort of way to explore a bit further. If you have any questions, my email address is here on the screen now, and there are lots of resources on our website at thinksmartbox.com as well, where you can get much more help. Now, what we're going to do in this session at the same time tomorrow is Dave from our support team is going to take you through some tips and tricks to make the editing process even quicker and easier. So he's going to be telling you some of the standard things and some of the maybe industry secrets, because we emailed around the Smartbox team and asked them to recommend their top tips. So Dave's going to share some of those as well. So thank you very much for being with us this afternoon. The chat question area will be open for a couple more minutes. But yeah, once again, thank you for joining us this afternoon.